This is the College Art Association Video Report. I'm Elise Levine, Academic Marketing Director. In promoting the ANC Black Visual Arts brand, we came up with a new tagline: Inspire, Excite, Create. It proved to be a wonderful handle to identify and define the list, and as professors would walk by, they would often read aloud that tagline, and that was a great entry point to begin conversations with them. We experimented more at this conference with the use of these vinyl banners that focused on individual titles, and I found these enormously effective in showing the professor these beautiful images that support my sales narrative, and in nearly every case I could get them from the vinyl banner images over to the exhibit area and show them the display copy of the book. A key objective that we have for every customer is that they leave our booth with a copy of our catalog that has been dog-eared and stapled and marked up with notations of the conversation we've just had with them. And here you see our publisher, Susan James, doing just that. The idea here is that by marking up the catalog, we get an extra insurance marker that of all the promotion pieces that they take back to their hotel room, ours will actually have a better shot of making it home with them. Our lead table had this eye-catching swag, our travel coffee mugs, of which we distributed 130 units, and our equally beautiful new catalog, of which we distributed an impressive 350 units. Everything in our exhibit was broken down into sections and concepts to make it easy for us to pitch the list and to interact with customers and get them the information that they wanted. Each section was given a branded ANC Black Visual Arts sign. There you see printmaking. And then surrounding that sign were the lead titles, the titles that represented the list, the titles that might be intriguing, and of course the titles that are new, which also had an ANC Black Visual Arts branded sign that said new. And you can see even just from that section, it's very easy for either somebody browsing or somebody pitching the list to get their hands on something new or something that is provocative or interesting within that category. And that conceptualizes our area of expertise. And if the customer is interested in that lead title, then you can upsell the list. You can get into the backlist. And it was just a much more efficient way to deal with the exhibits where there's an overload of information. And as I show you some of the other exhibitor booths, you'll see that it's almost impossible for somebody to go into the booth and browse and really get a sense of what that publisher represents. And I think on that one critical area, I think that we absolutely aced it for this conference. Susan and I also got great feedback about cover treatments that worked. Propaganda prints, most notably, spotted from a distance of at least 11 feet to the aisle by professors who saw it and came into the booth specifically to find out more about that title based on the cover and the title treatment. And there are other examples in the display which we'll put in our written report that were incredibly useful. Continuing our tour, we're now going over to the Palgrave Macmillan booth, where you will find the Berg display. Palgrave presented their display very conventionally, very much like the other academic publishers who are at this conference. They put an enormous amount of product out on the tables for display, and as you'll see in a moment, they also put a significant portion spine out to give the widest selection possible for the attendees. As you also see as we pan throughout the back of the booth, there's not clear signage or demarcations between the different categories of the types of books that are available. And as you'll see, their front table is where they put catalog and a lot of paper and a lot of, I think they were having some sort of a contest as well. And their booth attendees tend to stay at the front of the table, and what I call passive marketing, they wait for the customer to make the inquiries. They were actually in a different exhibit hall than we were. They had better seniority position, so they were in a more populated area of the exhibits than we were. For anyone who is nostalgic about the days when Consortium used to distribute ANC Black Visual Arts, here's a stroll down memory lane for you. This was their booth at CAA. I think you can see the contrast between being distributed in the United States and being published by Bloomsbury in the United States. Although they did have one or two titles there that I thought were pretty eye-catching. But our intrepid reporter, Susan James, went by during lunch on day 2 of the conference and found this attached to the chair at the Consortium booth. I thought you'd enjoy that. Okay, continuing our tour of the academic presses. This is Rutgers University. And I thought that many of their cover treatments were notable in this booth, so I wanted to give you a quick overview. Particularly this film series that they did, the consistent line look of it, and I like the title treatment a lot. And also notable to me is that many of their covers look very trade to me. And they're certainly very eye-catching. MIT Press had one of the busiest booths at the conference, and from their lead title selection at the front tables, I can understand why. I thought nearly every single title that they had on display was interesting and thought-provoking, very unique, and I thought that their cover concepts were very, very striking. So I thought this was definitely a booth that I wanted to document on video, just to show you what impressed me as an attendee.
I don't know. That's exactly.
It's a sketchbook cover.
Yeah, like goes over a
little one.
Yeah.
Hello.
She's handing them out.
And finally, this is a tour of the Watson booth. From what I saw, this was the only other publisher that had an even remotely similar product line to what we do, in that it was very much focused on the technique and practice of craft and visual arts. Although this publisher is much more skewed towards drawing and painting than what we do. But still, it shows that this exhibit, the other exhibits that I showed you, and the many, many comments from the professors who came to visit us strongly suggest that ACB Visual Arts has a unique and distinctive niche within this category of publishing. And so our job is very clear in that we have to connect our content to the right customer. This year's CAA conference was an incredible success for Bloomsbury in 2 separate and distinct ways. First and foremost, we met or exceeded all of our objectives and goals for introducing and defining our brand and getting our product message out to the academic and professional community at this, our most important national conference in the visual arts. Second, and possibly equally as important, the success of this conference is directly correlated to the ability of both the New York and London offices to work together to perfectly execute many moving parts in a very short period of time. The direct involvement and input of David Whiteman and Naomi Robinson, and of course our publisher Susan James, combined to make this conference a model template of execution and performance for Bloomsbury Academic and Professional.